Well, today in the Big Money Garage, I'm replacing the old style power steering box for the newer style integrated power steering from Borgeson. I got a whole kit. It came with this joint that screws on the center link of the tie rod where that control valve is for the old slave cylinder style power steering is. And the kit came with the hoses and of course the box and the appropriate joint, rag joint that goes with it. This old box is just completely worn out, but as you can tell, the original box is a lot shorter than what the new integrated style power steering box is. Measurement I got, you have to shorten your steering column by about 3.5 or 3.25 inches. Now, this being a 1967 Corvette, this was the first year of collapsible steering columns. And all this stuff is one of a kind, 67 only. And it took me a while to figure out how it all came apart. Now, like I said, the shaft and the steering column on a 67 and newer Corvette is collapsible. But there's things that you have to do to be able to make it collapse. And one of them is that this part, this plastic part, actually goes right here and the butts up against the end of this steering column. And as you can see, it's got this collapsible metal in the middle of it, all 1967 only. Well, you got to get this snap ring and pop it loose from right here so that you can slide this down and then shorten the column that way. Now, I don't know if you need to take all this stuff apart, but this is a big learning experience. You know, I didn't know for sure how all that came apart. And so I took it apart on this end. And like I said, again, this is all 1967 Corvette only. So I wanted to be real careful with it because the odds of finding replacement parts, I just have to buy new if they make it. But to get this piece off, there's this ring right here that's hard to see. I had to pop that off, and that allowed me to take the end off. I think 67 Corvette was the first year for the flasher lights too. Another unique thing. So anyway, I was being really careful with all of this stuff. But, you know, I took all that apart, and I still had a hard time getting this shaft out. But finally, whenever I pulled this end off, that allowed the shaft to come out freely. But even if I shortened this thing by 3.5 inches, I still had to get this black plastic piece to slide down, and you can barely see that there's a snap ring there. So that's how you get that down, because you don't want to collapse that rare 67 metal piece there. But anyway, hopefully I can get all this stuff put back together the way that it came apart. I've been taking pictures and videoing it as I go. But for anybody considering doing this job, I just thought I'd show that. I guess the 68 Corvette, things like that, probably collapsing that steering column is the same way. 68 all the way up to 1982. There were some differences though. 69 was the first year they had the key on the dash. I mean on the steering column. Anyway, that's what I'm doing tonight. Oh, and I found a 5.5 inch diameter pulley that clears the cross member barely, that will allow me to use long water pump style accessories. So I'm real happy about that. And like I said, I'm making some upgrades to this car that aren't exactly original. There's plenty of quote-unquote numbers matching all original 67 Corvettes out there. I'm building this one to drive. And I don't really want to spend too much money on making it run with this beast of an engine in there. I may actually pull that out and set it aside and put something else in it later on. So that's kind of why I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on the original pulley setup. Also, I've heard that the original pulley setup gave troubles with squealing belts and things like that. So I did it this way. I already had this stuff, but they say they drive a whole lot better with this Borgeson steering box. I guess we'll find out. But I tell you what, figuring out how this column comes apart is kind of a chore. I do have a shop manual, but man, a lot of the pictures and the drawings in that shop manual are hard to make out. I mean, it's just, you know, it almost looks like it's been run through a cheap copier 20 or 30 times, and I've got the 30th copy of it. I know that's probably not the case, but it's hard to make out the pictures. But that's the way that thing comes apart, and that's what it takes to shrink that column. So I will make that thing slide together by a little over 3 inches to accommodate my new steering box. Little by little, we're getting there. Thanks for watching.